investments with a 5-year view so that India's growth story can be back on track.
I believe there is a CNBC TV18 screen in the governor's room as well. And if he is listening to this, I'm sure that's going to at least, mellow his worries about how the monsoon might affect inflation, and that might be very material to stock picking.
No, see. Yeah, no, Lata, so I've been listening to Governor Rajan. I think there's a bit of merit in what he's saying. See, what he's saying is that we have to see how the government reacts to the rains, right? To pre-decide the reaction is not correct. And if the government reacts appropriately, then it's possible that inflation will not come back. And then he's saying we'll cut rates. I mean, he's not saying that I've said I'm not going to cut rates at all. He's very clearly saying that, I'm data dependent. And if the data comes out good, then he will. And if I look at what Chetan is saying, our economist, he's saying inflation will be at 4.7% in March. The RBI is saying it's 6.4. If Chetan is right, you can be assured of another 2 or 3 rate cuts before March.
No, I do think
this is about the future, No,
I completely agree. I mean, not a bit. I think there is a lot of merit in what the governor is warning us about, and the way inflation will trend. But no, let's get to stock picking. Your sentence from your report is, our stock picking approach remains to buy cyclicals in stocks with GARP orientation. As usual, we avoid beta. Now, just to speak about cyclicals, yesterday we also spoke to Anil, your banking analyst, and while he is very strong on private sector banks, he has also lowered some of their EPSs and book values because, is it because your expectation of growth is slower than you originally thought? What is your view on when earnings cycle turns? Will it happen in FY17 at all? FY16 at all?
So, Lata, everybody on the street has lowered their estimates.
Yes.
Estimates coming from Excel spreadsheets work on the basis of how the last quarter or the last 3-4 quarters have done. That's how analysts work their Excel spreadsheets, and they may be absolutely right. They have been totally right in the last 12 months. I also wrote a research report last week which was titled "The Consensus Was Right," and the market was wrong. Because if you go back, say 12 months ago, the market was expecting a recovery in earnings. The consensus kept cutting estimates, and then it all came to bear fruit in March, and the market had to react to the lack of earnings and come down very quickly and respond to the fact that the consensus was right. But now, I think the market is anchored to the consensus estimates. And the consensus actually usually is wrong. It gets it right sometimes, but it's usually wrong. Now, this is no comment on individual analysts. Okay, individual analysts at various points in time get great calls and they get it right. But on the aggregate, the sell-side analyst doesn't have a great track record in calling turning points, whether it's at the top of the cycle or at the bottom of the cycle. So that's one comment. The second one is that earnings revision spread, which is, the number of upgrades minus number of downgrades divided by total changes, is at the lowest point in India's history. We have this data going back about 20 years because that's when the sell-side estimates started building up. This is even lower than December 08. And I am struggling to actually come to this conclusion that the environment in India is worse than what it was in the end of 2008. So, to my mind, actually, I think everybody has become overly pessimistic about the earnings outlook. And the third point that I'll say here is that the leading indicators that we track, whether it is capex, whether it's real M1 growth, are suggesting that a growth turnaround is on hand. The strength of that recovery can be debated, but that the growth recovery is on hand, I think, is something which I am far more confident of, and that therefore will feed into earnings. So let's leave the June quarter aside, which I think will be slightly better than the March quarter, but the September quarter could be meaningfully better.
Okay, you might have a lot of answering to do to all the sell side